everybody. Welcome to Tadaima, a Terrace House Podcast, your weekly companion to your favorite show on Netflix. I'm Robert Scarpanito, and I'm joined here by Daily Wilhelm.
Heya.
Jack Cepeda.
Yoroshaimase, everybody. Hello.
And Colin Sparling.
I've switched to another set of 20 songs from 12 years ago.
Wow, so quickly, so soon. Within 30 minutes.
Within 30 minutes. Yeah, so, I mean, you got to have that rotation, but it's like that meme of Lisa from The Simpsons where she's like, "Yeah, give me that good in the coffee cup," and it's like the same 10 songs from.
See, you can't be dropping these kind of things without like throwing up a playlist.
Well,
should I make a playlist?
It'd just be 20 songs, but every song is just "Rollin'" by Limp Bizkit.
Yeah, accurate.
But the air raid vehicle version, so it's like the hardcore rap version
with Redman and Method Man.
Yeah,
same. Yeah. All right, that's about the extent of my Limp Bizkit knowledge. So let's talk about something.
And like I said, yeah. So they're just somebody's like, okay, I'm gonna give this a second chance, and then here we talk about Limp Bizkit again. It's like, nope, over.
I mean, there's a very big Limp Bizkit arc within opening new doors, as true. Everyone knows.
Dude, that would be so. If I would freak out if someone walked on to Terrace House wearing a Limp Bizkit shirt. Could you imagine? I would lose it.
I'm not even joking, though. Like, some of the music sounds a little like Limp Bizkit B-sides.
What if they went to a Limp Bizkit concert?
Okay, this is way too much Limp Bizkit.
Okay, I don't know, man.
All right, so this is a show about Terrace House, a great
not
Japanese.
Limp Bizkit.
Yeah,
yes.
It's a great Japanese reality TV show you can find on Netflix. And this is the second episode that we're publishing on the same day, where we're kind of giving you a primer of what Terrace House is and some kind of hidden behind the scenes kind of insights into what the show is all about. And I think we're going to kick things off with kind of just a quick little recap of the history of Terrace House, because I think like a majority of people worldwide have only seen this through Netflix, probably. I mean, that speaks for all four of us, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think like some people might not even know there was a whole nother season before Netflix came onto the scene, and it's like 98 episodes long.
Yeah, and if you watch Boys and Girls in the City, you can catch references to the previous season too, and you're like, what are they talking about?
When the commentators are speaking, you mean, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah, apologies. Yeah, when the commentators are speaking, they make references to characters that were only in the original 98 episode. God, that's 98. A lot of episodes.
Yeah, that's a lot of show.
Well, and not only that, but they have people from the first season recur in future ones. Like in Boys and Girls in the City, Sana shows back up. Just for whatever reason.
Sana-san.
Sana-san.
Sana.
Yeah. Infamous.
And she like helps get the ball rolling and create more drama, which is great, I guess. But you wouldn't, like, if you've only seen Netflix via Japan, or you've only seen Terrace House via Netflix. There we go. That's the
You ever seen Netflix via Japan?
Only Netflix in Japan. Now, if you've only seen Terrace House on Netflix, then you would have no idea who Sana is. And you would also have no idea that not only was it 98 episodes, but then they were like, let's finish with a movie.
Right.
I'm really curious. I actually don't know the story on the movie, though.
Did it get released in theaters? Like a legit, like, I'm going to buy a ticket to the Terrace House movie and buy some popcorn?
I don't believe so, no. I think it was just aired on TV.
Gotcha.
But what the movie was kind of like a greatest hits in a way that was supposed to kind of cap off this first epic 2-year season of Terrace House.
So it's basically kind of like an OVA, I guess.
They called it Closing Door.
Yeah.
Just one door.
To clarify what Colin said too, a lot of Japanese shows will kind of like close with a movie or several movies to kind of like give you that last look at that show. And sometimes it's not even related to necessarily what was happening last in the show. It's just kind of a like final condensing of everything that you watched.
Interesting.
So that first season was just called Boys and Girls Next Door, not to be confused with In the City. And it took place in Shonan, which is like a 40-minute drive from Tokyo, just south of it. So it's actually like really close to, one of the biggest cities in Japan. And it's kind of a surfing city. Like there's a lot of good places to surf around there because it's right on the coast. And it aired weekly only on Fuji TV until it ended. And aside from it not being like published to the Western audience, it's still the exact same show. Like the same panelists, the same concept, the same, like feeling of watching it. It just wasn't brought over to the West. Not any official capacity anyway.
Do we know if there were English subtitles made?
I believe there are not official English subtitles made out there on the internet.
Fan titles.
Some would say.
Okay, got it.
And
I'm sure there's fan subs out there.
The favorite fact I've learned about this first season is, do you guys want to take a guess at what the intro song is?
I think I know, so I will abstain.
Oh
Yeah,
God, I don't
yeah.
actually know this.
I do know this.
Okay, Colin, you all eyes on you, buddy.
Okay, hit me. What is it? I don't know.
We Are Never Ever Getting Back Together by Taylor Swift.
Whee!
No, we don't have the licensing for that. You can't sing it.
Oh no,
Really?
just
Well,
that
real.
single.
That's 100% real.
well, yeah,
That's strange.
that's
every
funny.
every season of Terrace House in Japan has a Taylor Swift intro.
I really wonder why that is. And then why is it not in the international version? Why is
it's
that not
gotta
also
be-
imported?
It's got to be licensing, right? It's got to be
my
a Taylor
guess.
Swift song costs way more to have on a show in North America than it would in Japan, just by the audience, and that's kind of like why. Fun weird fact: like if you ever notice, there is a disproportionate amount of Asian and Chinese students to driving Maseratis in college, is because I actually saw this video, this lecture, actually a Penn State lecture called Asian Cool on YouTube. It's crazy. Anyways, it's because Maseratis cost like 10 times less in America than they do in Japan. So even though it's still a $60,000, $70,000 car, it's way more in China if you wanted to buy a Maserati. So it seems like a huge bargain when you move to America
I did not know
as an
that.
international student. So yeah, crazy fact.
Yeah,
Okay, that's pretty
I've
cool.
seen quite a few Maseratis.
Yeah, a
While going
lot
to
of
school.
Asians driving Maseratis. on
Specifically
college
Maseratis.
campuses. Yes.
Yeah, there's a dealership right near where you work, right, Colin?
Yes, there is.
Oh,
yeah,
really?
about a couple blocks away, a couple minute walk, and you can be standing in front of several Maseratis and Porsches.
Yikes. And then we move on to Boys and Girls in the City. Now, this is where Netflix joins the crew. And to my understanding, I don't think Fuji TV had renewed Terrace House. Like, we wouldn't have Terrace House without Netflix.
Let me
you,
put this on the
Netflix.
table real quick before we jump into this. So when we bring up Fuji TV, and you can elaborate on this for me, Robert. So like oftentimes when you hear about media that comes out of Japan, it's usually associated with the name Fuji TV. And so could you give a little background on like Fuji TV too, as well? Because they're kind of like all encompassing when it comes to a lot of entertainment there.
Right. So Fuji TV is a lot like the BBC in the UK, if you're familiar with that. So it's not just one channel. There's kind of a conglomerate of channels under the Fuji TV brand. And each channel is kind of dedicated to a certain niche. Like there's a variety TV and sports channel. There's one dedicated to like anime, essentially. But nonetheless, like a lot of TV in Japan is made or is published through or is at least on a Fuji TV channel. Yeah. So
No idea if that was named after the mountain or not. I can't confirm that, but
I mean, like another successful export was Iron Chef, was a Fuji TV show.
Oh,
And
really?
That's huge here too.
yeah.
Oh yeah, I didn't know Iron Chef was Fuji TV. That's interesting.
And in the anime sphere, like Dragon Ball Super, One Piece,
Yeah.
Naruto, they all aired
Interesting.
on Fuji TV.
They just seem like a massive conglomerate, like you said, kind of like Clear Channel in the States.
Yeah, but rarely do you ever hear like this show is sponsored by Clear Channel or brought to you by,
Right.
Yeah, so this is a huge team up
right.
between
Yeah,
like
it
two
sounds like-
powerhouses.
it sounds like the equivalent of like say Viacom here. Viacom owns a shit ton here in the
Maybe.
US. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, Netflix is on the scene now. They're like, hey, we think that like this show Terrace House could be something more than just a Japanese reality TV show. And I didn't know this until I did some research, but apparently like, so you know how it comes out weekly in Netflix Japan, right? Along with on
Right.
Fuji TV. It comes out a full month before on Netflix Japan than when it airs on Fuji TV.
Oh wow.
Oh, really?
So
Yeah.
Netflix is the first drop.
Netflix Japan specifically is the very first place you can watch these episodes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That is. I guess like is that just because it's now expected. Like that's part of the deal, and like that's an easier way to consume it versus just like
because Netflix
happening
put in the
upon
money.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe.
Well, so I don't know how true this would be in Japan, but I know in my time in Korea, there's like, your commute to work is a big thing. And since public transportation is so big, more often than not, you're just sitting there on the bus or on the train playing with your phone rather than like actively at the wheel driving to work.
Mm.
So that's like a full hour or two of your day where you're just sitting there on your phone. And
Watch Terrace House.
yeah, watch Terrace House or watch whatever you want to watch on Netflix or Hulu or whatever.
Damn, you streaming all that data? Stream all that video on your data? That'd be awful.
They provide like modems and stuff.
Oh, they have Wi-Fi on the trains?
On trains.
Yeah.
Not
Oh,
on
yeah.
buses.
Whoa.
At least not when I was there in Korea, but on trains they do.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That public infrastructure, though.
If only America had that, right? So Boys and Girl in the City ran for 46 episodes, a little over a year. And then like just a week later in Netflix Japan, you could have started watching Aloha State, which I didn't realize that because I don't know, guys, correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels like there was a long wait between like Aloha State and Opening New Doors.
I can't speak to that because when I started the show, like my interest in the show and binging it, they were both already on Netflix, so I didn't really have to wait too much.
Right.
Yeah, there was definitely like a bit of a wait. I don't remember it being like excessively long though. I don't remember exactly. It was at least a couple months. It
Right.
was a few months. Yeah.
So what made Aloha State interesting, it was the first time that Terrace House went overseas, right? They filmed that in Hawaii, which makes sense because Hawaii does actually have a pretty big Japanese population. It's kind of like the best place to be Japanese American, essentially. And that whole series ran for 36 episodes, still under the Netflix banner, which I think is the only way Terrace House is going to happen moving forward from the looks of it.
Right.
And then what's funny about Aloha State is it was originally only slated for 24 episodes. And then they extended it to 36, which I think because when we were watching it, they did mention that on the show. And
Right.
I can't point any fingers, but if I had to guess, maybe that was Netflix kind of like hesitating on whether this would be popular.
Sure.
And then it like started catching, like this cult status pretty slowly, but surely.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
just
they-
because it was 96 episodes in Japan doesn't mean they can just, we're just going to buy 96 more, in
Right.
Hawaii. So that makes sense, I guess, when you look at it that way.
Yeah.
And then here, 2017, in 2017, they started Opening New Doors at the end of the year. So basically all of 2018 has been set here in Karuizawa. It's the season we're following now. It's a season we're going to start following next week, set in this small little town of 20,000 people. And it's like a 2.5 hour drive away from Tokyo.
It's on a mountain. I equate it to like Japanese Aspen. It's like right smack in the middle of, the island. It's in Nagano Prefecture. It's very much sorted to like outdoor and indoor sports. It's actually the only city that has hosted both the Summer and the Winter Olympics.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Fun facts.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like a big summer destination for people living in Tokyo. Like it's a huge tourist industry going on in Karuizawa. And another fun fact geographically, it's at the foot of a volcano that was active in 2015.
Oh, freaky.
Rip.
Talk about drama.
Have like an eruption in the middle of the show? That'd be crazy.
Yeah. Dude, that'd be wild.
Yeah. So and on the note of episode count too, so there's been 32 episodes, right? Opening New Doors released here in the US.
Yep.
So far.
And so there is about to be 8 more released. So we're going to be at 40 episodes come some point in December here in the US. So it's already doing, I guess, better than Aloha State, one could assume.
Yeah, and I think they have said that they're going to be filming up through January 2019, which means at least another part after part 5.
Oh, they've already committed to that?
Yeah.
January 20, like that's a while.
Yeah, it's about a full year.
Yeah, so that's, 2 more parts after part 5. That sounds like at least.
I would say at least one. They might like wait till they have all of the rest of them and just release part 6 as like one big part, like they did with Aloha State.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Ooh, we'll see what happens.
It's hard because Terrace House isn't like Marvel, where it's like, we're going to keep pushing out movies. You have the schedule up until like 2025. Whereas, because especially like Netflix doesn't release any of its viewer data, so we don't actually know like how many people are solidly like watching this. But we know a lot of people are, because here we are talking about it.
Yeah, we can say a lot of people are at least talking about it online, but
right, and
it's really up in the air.
Hasn't the Netflix Japan like communications coordinator gone on record saying that the show is performing better than they expected with an international audience?
Yes. I believe his name is... Oh, I lost it. But essentially, it's been confirmed that it's like surprising how much eagerness there has been outside of Japan. And they're happy about that because it's a glimpse into modern Japanese culture. And maybe it's, you know, distracting away from stereotypes that might be peddled by anime. I love anime, but, you know, it's definitely not what's happening exactly. But it has exceeded expectations for international viewership.
And they'll say that on the show too, and that's one of my favorite parts about the show is when the commentators talk about their exploits around the country, around the globe, and where people are recognizing them. Sometimes it results in them getting on planes sooner than they should be. But yeah, it's definitely catching on, far beyond the reaches of Japan, far beyond the reaches of Asia overall. And like I said, it's only growing in popularity as the episodes continue. Yeah. And I read a interesting article actually recently and talked about like, well, what is it? You know, when talking about the target audience, like who is watching this, like what is really kind of people's anchor is it coming back to the show? And as someone who gets, definitely kind of grew up. How do I say this? A lot of my family is from the Pacific Islands, right? And so I don't know a lot about that area, but whenever there is anything about Guam or even Hawaii to a certain extent, like on TV, it already like catches my interest a little bit more than anything else, right? Than like Maine or like Nantucket or something like that, right? Just because like, I want to learn about, my culture, like where I'm from. And that's what this article was saying, was that a huge percentage, they're speculating, of the audience watching Terrace House are Asian Americans actually like looking to know more about the homeland. And I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same reason for me. We're like, I'm from that area, and watching the show only reminds me of like back home, And just to kind of clarify an earlier point, it was Kata Sakamoto, content manager at Netflix Japan, who said that like they're surprised at how well the show is doing internationally. And it's a shame that we don't really get like Netflix numbers, because back when it was only on Fuji TV, I think that they were saying on average you get about like 4 to 5% of all households watching Terrace House on average.
Wow.
And then episode 76, I believe, was the highest viewed episode, or 74 was the highest viewed episode, with nearly 10% of all Japanese households who have Fuji TV watching that episode.
Hey, quick question. Do we have like data? Like, are they watching the show essentially in real time? Meaning like, are they watching, last week's events that happened? Like, does it get edited and aired that quickly, or is there a little bit more of a turnover time?
That I am not sure. I think I remember hearing this, and I need to research it to be absolutely sure, but there's like at least a month or two of delay.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, because I feel like if you just think about it logistically too, so every episode like covers an entire week, so you'd have to think that they're filming footage for an entire week at a time, and they have to edit through that entire week of footage for every single episode. So that definitely is editing through a week's worth of footage is going to take a serious amount of time. And I don't know if they're like, I don't know if they're constantly keeping the cameras on even while they sleep or anything like that. But that would be a lot of footage to go through.
You get like a Paranormal Activity episode where someone just like stands for 3 hours staring at someone else.
Dude. Yeah, I mean, the only time you ever get footage of people sleeping usually is when they're sleeping really late into the day, and they're like accenting that, right? Mm-hmm. They're just like, oh yeah, this person's sleeping late in the day and it's time for them to get up. But it's never usually like the weird thing that you see in a lot of reality shows where it's literally like a night vision camera of them sleeping.
Yeah.
Like it's
two people hooking up with each other, and it's really weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a little too invasive for me. Yeah.
That would be weird. That's the thing about the show. Like, even though we are literally watching these people's lives, it doesn't feel invasive. Like, the cameras feel naturally placed. And, you know, I think arguably sometimes to the point that maybe there are things that are staged, like certain conversations or like placements of people, because you won't be able to get those kind of camera angles without having known, like, oh, you're going to sit there. Okay, so when you sit there, can you move over a little bit so that we can get like your shoulder in frame as you're talking to someone else? But
and to that point, real quick, Sana also has her chair right at the table. Like, this is where I sit because this is my angle. This is where I tell my plastic surgeon that I'm going to sit so he can do my nose. No, just kidding. But essentially, that's where she feels like is her best side is showcased.
Yeah, they definitely break the fourth wall a little bit. Well, especially Sana. And you could definitely tell like they had some sort of, if not being actively told where to sit, at least some sort of training as to like, okay, these are the areas where you're going to be in shot during these certain parts. And you definitely, at least I don't get the sense that in a lot of parts that there's an active camera crew. It seems like a lot of just placed cameras that are just always running. I'm sure there's people that come into the house to like, you know, to get the SD cards out and, you know, get the footage and blah, blah, blah. But other than that, like it's almost always a consistent like camera angle, right? As if the cameras were set up. Yeah. And you know what I mean? So it seem like it's constantly changing like a camera crew would be.
Yeah, because even as I said, like, it doesn't feel invasive. I mean, there's like cameras set up in like fairly intimate places, like the bath. Literally, like I saw butts.
Yeah, you can see pretty explicit man butt.
A pair of butts sometimes.
2 butts. Multiple butts.
Yeah. Some gross man
Several
butt.
butts.
It's a thing.
and that's, you know, maybe, you know, in Japan that's not as big of a deal. I feel like
but it definitely, if it was on TV here, it would be blurred.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's actually
would be edited out, yeah.
Yeah, so that's actually something I kind of want to hone in on too, is that like this is a show, that Terrace House is a show that's a good window into a whole new culture for a lot of, you know, Americans, right? And that's actually something that's true. Nudity isn't as big a deal in Asian cultures. Like, when they bathe together completely naked, that's a sign of like kinship, or like, hey, you're someone I trust and like I want to befriend. Let's bathe together naked. Whereas here in America, if like, you know, if you heard about 2 guys who bathe together, you'd probably assume they're homosexual or at least bi. And in some kind of relationship.
Fair enough.
Yeah, we definitely don't have much like a community onsen here, like in America, which is like a community bath in Japan. I mean, the closest you're going to get is a fucking gym locker room shower.
Yeah.
Like, that's as close as you're going to get.
And those
even then,
pretty partitioned off.
Right, exactly. And even as someone, like, I've played team sports before, and hitting the showers is a thing. Yeah. But even then, it's like people get in and they want to get the fuck out as soon as possible. Like, do your shit.
All business,
Not hang out, drink a beer.
Right.
Talk to each other. Look each other in the eye.
In the shower. Yeah. Exactly.
Maintain eye contact with me as I scrub.
But I mean, forget about going to a community bath together. It's not a thing here. But
maybe it should be, guys. Let's start it.
Yep.
Maybe.
Do it, Jack.
You guys live together.
Organize it.
You guys share a bathroom. Go for it. Let us know.
I wonder if there was anywhere in America that you could do that. I feel like Seattle would be one of those places. So maybe it would be here.
Hey,
do a social experiment. Start that.
Yeah. Can you podcast from the shower together, guys, please?
Oh my God.
Next
audio
episode.
live
from the shower.
Audio would be
is
so
Tadaima.
bad. Reverb everywhere.
Exactly. Yeah. But that's something I kind of appreciate seeing, especially with the context. I feel like a lot of people take a lot of what they know from Japan, and it's like from things that are very much blown out of proportion, like anime. Whereas Terrace House is much more the everyday little bits of like modern Japanese life. And that includes like men are allowed to be a lot more open with their emotions and kind of touchy-feely with each other. Like there's like, you know, not to spoil anything, but like Takayuki and Yudai, you know, they shared that bath together, and like they cried almost in each other's arms, and it was just like, you know, not necessarily like the moment, but it didn't feel like then they were like, oh, we gotta pull ourselves together now. It's like they're allowed to be.
Yeah, and it's just sad that here in America, you kind of are conditioned from a very young age where like crying is a girl thing.
Yeah.
Boys don't cry. Suck it up. You know, and it's like,
repress those emotions with all that
now we're getting into
guilt.
Now we're getting into the whole problem with hypermasculinity, which is definitely an ongoing issue, but it's not so much. It's definitely something that's not evident on this show in particular. Like you're never going to see a guy that's like afraid to cry, or people on this show in general that are afraid to show their emotions.
right. But I mean, I think that just comes from the kind of society Japan is. Japan's a very collectivist society compared to America's definitely very individualist society where it's all about me.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, I don't fuck with you, you don't fuck with me, okay, we're good.
Yeah.
That's not how it is in Japan at all times. Yeah.
No, yeah, it's very much the group before all else. I mean, like, there's a Japanese proverb, you know, the nail that sticks up is the one that gets hammered down. It's like you're wanting to not cause conflict and, you know, jive with the group vibe. And when there are people that don't on Terrace House, it's very evident very quickly.
Yeah. I can only think of a handful of times where it was like, woo, that's different. That's in you.
That's
and
a yikes, dog.
That's not going well right now. But you do notice it for sure. So I think that should wrap us up for today's episode. It's been about your history of Terrace House and the things that are like insights into Japan. So the next episode that's coming after this, we're going to do a deep dive into those 6 strangers that sit on the couch and joke about the people in the house. I'm talking about the panelists. And we're going to help you understand who they are, what they're about, why they're there. Why do we even care that there's a panel on Terrace House? So we're going to dive into it. If you enjoyed this episode, feel free to leave us an iTunes review. It'd mean way more than you know. And until the next time, this has been Tadaima. Thanks for listening. Itadakimasu!
Email us at questions@terracehousepodcast.com. Follow us on Instagram at Tadaimagram, on Twitter at Tadaima Pod, and check us out on Facebook and YouTube at Tadaima, a Terrace House Podcast.